No preamble here. I want a scripture of when, so let's go get one. The Archglacior, although not a native, comes from the frozen world called Leng. It wasn't always frozen, but just by the look of the arena around the Archglacior, you can see why this race's arrival on Leng turned it into an Arctic wasteland. Although totally unaffiliated with Wen, since they're basically just mindless constructs, Wen conscripted them into her army because Wen likes things chilly. A match made in heaven. What's unique about this boss is how versatile it is for all levels of PvM skill. The lore has it that several mages, such as Kairos and Ariane, are using their power to hold the Archglacior back, limiting its strength. You can get each of them to stop channeling, which adds a new mechanic to the fight. Glaciite minions, Flurry, Pillars of Ice, Frost Cannon, and the Exposed Core. Prior to my hunt for the Scripture of Wen, I had killed the Archglacior a few times with 0 mechanics or 1 mechanic. Every extra mechanic increases its health pool, but having only the Flurry mechanic active makes this boss super AFKable. Great for charms and some alkables. I had killed it probably 100 or so times like this since its release just to finish Reaper assignments. Possibly the most convenient part about this fight is that death isn't death. Azanadra uses his magic to pull you out of the arena when you die so you don't go to Death's office. You don't lose any buffs, and you keep your familiar. But you can talk to Azanadra, tell him to stop hindering the Archglacior's power, and enter hard mode. The mechanics on hard mode are slightly different, but what's more important is the enrage and streaking system. Like Telos, every time you kill the Glacior on hard mode, you get loot and are given a choice to basically gamble all the loot you've gotten so far for greater rewards by fighting it again, but on a higher enrage. The higher the enrage, the stronger the Glacior. And if you die, you lose a bunch of the loot. Needless to say, I did not fight it on hard mode for a few reasons, but we'll talk about that later. What is it about the Scripture of Wen that makes me want it so much? Why not continue using the Scripture of Jas? It's pretty decent after all. Randomly, you'll proc a 10-second window where all the damage you do will be counted. Then at the end of that window, it'll deal 20% of the amount counted. Burst windows are nice and all, but they can be a bit fiddly when they appear randomly. Imagine it proccing after you use an Igneous Cow Mage boosted Omni Power. Missing out on some serious damage. Kind of annoying. The Scripture of Wen is much simpler. Now, there's a whole calculator on the wiki that creates a graph showing how much of a damage increase the books are compared to one another, a bunch of math and special conditions. Great if you're looking to optimize even your own farts. Personally, I prefer to let my farts fly free without the worry of wanton min-maxing, but hey, different strokes. Anyway, the Book of Wen has a 6.6% chance, about 1 in 15, to call down a big ol' ice beam on your enemy. It does 5 piddly little hits of damage, then 1 massive strike between 240% and 400% of your ability damage. For context, the Gothic Staff spec does 140% to 300%, and we already know how strong that is. Oh, and did I mention the beam hits all targets in a 3x3 area of the initial target? Yeah, it's an AoE. It's really strong. At the start of this grind, like a month or two ago, I sorted my bank and put all of the Glacior's potential loot in a single bank tab. My idea was to go back in the footage, do some math, and figure out exactly what loot I got. Yes, there's a loot tracker, and it'll come in handy toward the end, don't worry. The trouble is that I can never commit to doing one thing, so the loot tracker isn't always super accurate. So what did my bank start out looking like? I'd love to tell you, but I goofed and lost that footage. See, by saying lost, it makes it sound like it wasn't my fault, but I straight up deleted it without thinking. It's okay though, we can salvage this. Now let's talk a bit about the fight itself. It's actually very straightforward. The mechanics are all pretty heavily telegraphed and nothing except the cannon attack will one-shot you. But the windup for the cannon is so long you'd have to be a moron to get killed by that. Resonance and you're fine. On hard mode, it can one-shot you 3 times in a row. So a single resonance won't cut it, you're gonna have to be a bit more creative. What I really find fun about PvM is learning these small little quirks and telegraphs every boss has and being able to do small optimizations in your movement and your decision making as you go through it, rather than super strong mechanics and having to do a huge amount of DPS and all that. I just like the game of minor optimizations that don't really cost you much, like little movements here and there, little abilities, saving things this time, do the, small things. As I fought the Archglacior more and more, I became more familiar with those quirks and telegraphs, and I found you can sometimes tell what mechanic it's going to do next by the position of the ice walls. For example, if a bunch of ice starts approaching from the left side of the bridge, get ready for the Pillars of Ice attack. Just run away from them. If the ice walls are close to the center and the Glacior stops attacking, it's about to hug you. Its body drops onto the bridge and its core becomes exposed. Destroy one of the arms and you're golden. And don't worry about getting away from the core. I thought there was a time bomb mechanic for the first few dozen kills, so I'd always run away afterwards, but that doesn't really matter. The danger of this mechanic is not killing the arms fast enough because you take more and more damage from the core the longer it's hitting you. I'm not sure what the telegraph for the Glaciites is, but in my experience, it'll throw them out and become immune just as soon as you cast Omni Power. This bastard input reads like an Elden Ring enemy. Fortunately, the Glacites, much like the boss, are trivial on normal mode. A well-placed Dragon Breath can kill all 4. Just click the little orbs they leave behind and you can get back to fighting the boss. What's nice is each orb also does 2500 damage to the Archglacior, meaning the damage you do to the Glacites isn't wasted. If you want to be technical, it means a single Dragon Breath can do 10,000 damage to the Archglacior. But let's be real, it's more likely that your Dragon Breath either hits only one of the Glacites or it hits all 4 for 2000 damage each. Best game. The only other mechanic is Flurry, where it changes from magic to ranged. I think it swaps between the two and you're supposed to prayer flick to reduce the damage, but on normal mode, it's basically an intermission. Good time to use Sunshine and launch off a bunch of thresholds. It's apparently way more dangerous on hard mode. What a surprise. The loot's pretty standard like most Elder God Wars bosses. Troves, Alchable Salvage, Battle Stabs, Stone Spirits, Onyx Dust, Crystal Keys, Dragon Stones, Hydrix Bolt Tips, nothing extraordinary. The Glacior specifically drops Water Talismans, Spirit Weed Seeds, crushed birds' nests for some reason, and summoning catalysts. The unique drops you can get on normal mode are Lang Artifacts, Glacior Remnants, Dark Nihilus, and the thing I'm hunting, the Scripture of Wen. Lang Artifacts are used to upgrade the stats of Karapak's Wrist Wraps, the Gloves of Passage, or the Nightmare Gauntlets, just straight upgrades. Useful, but not what I'm looking for. And of course I got 3 in total because why wouldn't I? Glacior Remnants are used to craft various Glacior related things like cosmetic wings and snowballs. Oh, also the tier 85 and 95 swords. As a pair, they remove the shared cooldown on Destroy and Hurricane. Alone, the offhand also allows you to use Hurricane while dual wielding. Pretty neat. The tier 95 also has a special attack that increases your hit cap, so that's kind of cool. Melee is Switchscape, what can I tell you? These uniques have a drop rate of 1 in 500, but since the Archglacior drops 3 loot piles at a time, the drop rate is effectively 1 in 167. Technically, that's not how probability works. It'd be 1 minus 499 over 500 raised to the 3rd power, but 1 in 167 is like within a percent of a percent from the actual responsibility. It's fine. Either 0.5988008% chance to drop or 0.598802% chance to drop. Anyone that nitpicks over that is a jackass. Although I guess I'm nitpicking over. So, a 1 in 167 drop. Technically, you can get a better rate from hard mode, but there's a catch. The drop rate on hard mode actually starts out much worse than on 5 mechanic normal. It's only when you start streaking and building in rage that you get a better and better drop chance. Why not streak and farm a single in rage? Well, there's a few reasons. First, the enrage mechanics and the whole system is kind of confusing to me, but really the main reason is it takes a lot longer to kill the Glacior at higher enrages. I was killing about 20 to 24 per hour on normal mode, this includes banking and all that. Were I to streak enrages to the point that the scripture would be more common, I'd have to go to the multiple hundreds of percents, possibly even 1000%. Look at this calculator on the wiki. 1000% enrage, 100 streak, and the drop rate of the scripture is 1 in 181. Technically still rarer than normal mode. Sure, I have a chance of getting the core, but I don't care about the core right now. I'm a magic man. Mind you, if you die while doing this, you lose a bunch of the loot you've accumulated, so that sucks. All for a lower drop chance at the item you want? And that's not all. How long would it actually take me to kill a single Glacior at that enrage? There's a formula for calculating how much health it'll have based on the enrage. On normal mode 5 mechanic, it's 365,000. On 100% enrage, it's 444,000. 1000%, 1.1 million. So killing these hard mode Glaciors would take more time, be more dangerous, and be less rewarding. I'm sure the loot is super lucrative for a main in rares or otherwise, but I'm an Ironman, by the way. I can't just make 100 mil by streaking and buy the Scripture of Wen, so I need to get the actual scripture. Normal mode it is. I got to a point where I was kind of sick of streaming Archglacior. Every stream it was the same thing, basically. This bright blue and white landscape broken up by frequent visits to War's Retreat was all my viewers had to look at. So after my kill count reached 650, which included maybe 201 mechanic kills, I'm not sure, I decided to hunker down and start killing this thing off stream. On top of that, I reset my drop tracker so I could get an exact loot count until I got the scripture.
Oh yeah, here it is. Nice. Scripture. Let's get out of here. Oh yeah.
About 4 hours after I set off on this journey, the golden loot beam was finally not a Triskelion key, and it was the scripture at last. All it took was another 86 kills. Knowing the loot I got from those 86 kills, and knowing that some of the Archglacior loot in my bank started at 0, and I only accumulated it due to the Archglacior kills, I can get a rough estimate of exactly how many 5 mechanic kills I did since starting this grind. The Summoning Foci, the Orichalcum Salvage, and the When Anima in my bank came from Archglacior and only Archglacior. In this 86 kills, I got 204 Summoning Foci, 156 Orichalcum Salvage, and 10,202 When Anima. This means each kill over the course of these 86 dropped on average 2.372 Summoning Foci, 1.814 Orichalcum Salvage, and 118.628 Anima. Now let's look at the total amount of all those things I have in my bank. 1,263 Foci, 830 Salvage, and 62,439 Anima. If we divide these totals by the average amount per kill, we can get a rough estimate of how many Archglaciors we defeated since the start of this grind. 1,263 Foci divided by 2.372 is 532.462. Just say 532 because I can't half kill an Archglacior. Well, I can, but I don't get loot for a half kill. I just have to start the kill over. 830 Salvage divided by 1.814 is about 458. 62,439 Anima divided by 118.628 is 526. It looks like we're floating around 500 kills. If we average these numbers together, we get 505 kills, so I could argue it took me 500 kills to get the scripture, but something's nagging me. I feel like the Orichalcum amount is the most reliable. I think it's closer to 450 kills. I feel like I might have gotten Summoning Foci or When Anima from somewhere else and I just didn't realize it. I don't know where I would have gotten it, but it's just like this little thing in the back of my head. That salvage though, the medium blunt Orichalcum salvage, it only drops from the Archglacior. There's no other source of it. Can't get it from troves, can't get it from other bosses, can't get it from like random loot from the rare drop table. It only comes from the Archglacior. What sucks is I can't show you all the loot from 450 kills. I didn't plan that far ahead. I've been using some of the stuff that's been in my bank. I've been like turning in some of the keys. I've been using some of the Bainite Stone Spirits, and I don't even know how much I started with, so I can't tell you anything. But the most interesting stuff is the alchables. The staves and the salvage are worth nearly 100 mil. If I did kill 500 Archglaciors, then every kill is worth almost 200k in alks alone. Not too bad if you ask me. Then there's all the crystal keys, the dragon stones, the onyx dust, the pernix fragments from all the troves, which I also didn't keep track of like a moron because I'd open them at the end of each stream, and the bolt tips. Loot Pinata. That's what this thing is. I'm sure hard mode is even more lucrative if you're good at streaking. They say you're supposed to end on a joke, and there's a joke there, but I can't think of one, so just pretend I made a joke.